Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a Screenwriter's Rant request, The Legend of Vox Machina. Somebody in my comments section said, oh, review this or react to this, so I'll take a look here. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Check it out at Amazon.com. Kindle Unlimited is free. Now, this is from Prime Videos, so I'm not so sure about this one. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It's wacky Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Not quite as fantasy oriented as I would like, because they got a guy with a gun, which I'm not a big fan of in the lore of Dungeons and Dragons. But the design is okay. I mean, it's a little too much. It's a little overproduced. There's like too many colors going on, too many things happening, too many characters. You know, beyond that, it's pretty standard stuff. It's about a group of characters who killed for gold, and now they're going to be heroes, and they're going to do Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And it's going to be hilarious because they're going to say modern things in a fantasy setting. The problem is, it's a little, it's not, the fantasy stuff isn't quite there. Like, the comedy isn't there. It's a little, I mean, it'll be fine for people who are really hardcore Dungeons and Dragons fans, but it's a little bit, see, this is a funny bit. I mean, the barbarian gets injured and he says, oh, is this bad? But, first off, the name is terrible. The Legend of Vox Machina. What the hell is that? What a terrible name. Now, this is somehow connected to YouTubers. I'm told, okay, I guess, but that is a terrible name. It is a terrible, terrible name. I want to keep the blood out of this. Vox Machina, I mean, that doesn't sound like a fantasy realm. It should be like, the warriors of blah, 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 or the defenders of the realm, or something more fantasy oriented. It's like you're bringing in kind of some technology in there, and I think that's hurting it. Also, you got a lot of elves going on, and I get that. I'm not seeing too many dwarves. To me, to do a fantasy thing, you need dwarves, elves. You need to do Lord of the Rings, essentially, in terms of the races. So you got plenty of elves, but you need hobbits, dwarves, elves, and humans. And if you're going to do Dungeons and Dragons, you need a half-orc, who I assume the barbarian is kind of a half-orc. But this guy with the gun, nah, I'm not down with the guns. It's too modern. Too modern. It takes me out of the fantasy. But, in Dungeons and Dragons, they eventually incorporated guns. You also need good villains. The villains look pretty generic here. I mean, it sounds like I'm really down on it, but this is something I would watch. But I wouldn't expect anybody else to watch it. It doesn't have much crossover appeal, in my view. It's too inside baseball. Vox Machina, the Legend of Vox Machina. Oh, and by the way, there are swords and magic and guns and, and everybody kind of looks the same. Nah. What you needed was a very distinct world. Very distinct to make this work. And that world's just not here. Not in this trailer. You needed to name the kingdom. Numero uno. I don't know really the names of any of the characters. I think they mentioned one or two, but there's too many characters in the party already. Some of them look cool. The little guy here, he's the magician. He looks kind of cool. Excuse me, but and this guy in the trench coat, I really have a problem with. The trench coat too, too modern, too modern. Trench coat and guns, no. If you got rid of him and replaced him with a guy in armor, where are the guys in armor? Why doesn't this guy have like real armor? He's the barbarian. He's the guy who's doing all the fighting. They need more guys with armor, in my view. You know, you need a Strider type character. I mean, it doesn't look awful. It just doesn't look great. It just looks like it's going to be like, haha, we're doing Dungeons and Dragons jokes, and you know that'll last a season, half season before. I mean, literally, this looks like something I could watch any episode on, the first, the middle, the last, and I'd get about the same reaction. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that's Dungeons and Dragons. Where is the new? Right? Where is the new here? I worked with the guys at Kenzer and Company, and they did stuff like this. And they did it way better than this. The characters were distinct, they had personality, they were also players, and you know, they switched back and forth sometimes between the fantasy world and the players. It was more geared towards players, but that's what's missing from this. Either you got to go full bore and show us the players too, and switch back and forth in the fantasy realm and do a thing where it's like, well, you know, this guy plays these kinds of characters because he's this sort of personality, and then in the fantasy world he lives out his fantasy. Or if you're gonna do straight up fantasy, you got to give me fantasy. I mean, this is, you know, it's not tied to any particular ethnic group in real human world. It doesn't have anything near to that. I mean, they're elves. There are too many elves. Already, the elves, I mean, look, in Lord of the Ring, elves are like superheroes. In Dungeons and Dragons, they're not, but give us a little mysticism, a little mystical taste. I like the bard character. Yeah, he's evil, I guess. I don't know what his deal is. I don't know. It's just, it's not setting my world on fire. And again, it looks well animated. It looks well acted. There's an enthusiasm here that I like, but you've picked every... You've made this inaccessible to people. The Legend of Vox Machina. Terrible name. Just the legend of something else. You needed something either more generic or more... Machina just doesn't work. Machina doesn't work. It means machine. Doesn't work. You know, this... What is this? What... I don't know any of this culture. Nothing. You're not giving me anything. You know? You're just throwing a million characters at me in this trailer and saying, hey, we're going to do a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons jokes. I know I'm just ranting about the same thing over and over, but I want to like this trailer. I want to like this show, but it just looks boring to me. I'm not going to pay for this. I mean, I have Prime, so I guess I could watch it for free, so maybe I'll check it out, but you kind of built this up. Sorry, requester. Sorry, person who requested this. I mean, it just looks like a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons player made a cartoon with their characters and didn't bother to give me any personalities whatsoever in this. They're too busy trying to make jokes, and their jokes they're just not that good. Get a comedy writer. I could have made this funny. But see, what I would have done is what I did in my comic book, The Travelers. You have to make this accessible for people. You have to give more iconic characters. You need a wizard to look like a wizard. You need a warrior or a knight to look like a warrior or a knight. You need the cleric to look, or the healer to look like a healer. You need them all to look. You can't go with these very esoteric looks. And it's a bunch of elves. They're all elves except two guys. I guess the short guys are hobbits or whatever, but you know, it's too much. I can't relate to any of it. I need one person I can relate to. There's nobody in this lineup I can relate to. None. I'm not an elf. I can't relate to any of the elves. They're all gone. Maybe the barbarian, but he's the stupidest guy. And the guy with the guns takes me out of the fantasy. Sorry. So it's called The Legends of Vox Machina. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. Do we have a date on it? No. Maybe it's on now. Sorry, requester. It's just... What the hell are you doing? Anyhow, that's my evaluation as a screenwriter. I don't think this is gonna catch fire. You know, with the hardcore Dungeons and Dragons fans, yeah, they'll watch it. They'll like it. Yeah. But the normies, I wouldn't expect the normies to get on board. And that's it for me, Tony D. For my more base takes, if you can imagine more base takes, check out Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for News Blast and Hollywoke Hot Take. We'll see you in the next one.